Call the meeting to order, please.
I'd like to welcome everyone. And will please stand. Let's pledge allegiance to the flag. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Now we welcome Mr. Jack Taylor to lead us in an invocation.
Would you bow your heads with me, please? Almighty God, we come before you today to give you honor and praise. You are worthy of our praise. You are the source of all that is good. You are the source of all of our blessings. And thank you for every gift that we have been given. We thank you for the opportunity to come and gather together this day. We ask for your blessing on this meeting. We ask that you would guide and direct this meeting so that it is full of wisdom, productivity, and respect for one another. Thank you for helping us to accomplish this work and these goals this day. And Lord God, please be with the family of Jerry Atkins. Be with our fire department as they will celebrate his life tomorrow, Lord. Help everyone through this time of grief and sorrow. And we humbly ask this in Jesus' name. Amen.
Okay, announcements. One thing I'd like to mention is the North Carolina Department of Natural and Cultural Resources sent us a letter stating that they're planning on putting in a highway marker on Highway number 9 in honor of Raphael Gustavino. And this was the Swandahl Valley Museum is planning a dedication tentatively set for December 7th, 2019. Okay, our next proclamations and awards, Mr. Bob McMurray and Carlos Showers, because he's our member on the chamber board, will do that presentation.
Bob, would you join me up front? We're going to do something a little different with this proclamation. Pam, would you join me too? Family members? And if there are any board members for Swandahl Valley Chamber, you would join us also. Any business owners in town, would you join us also? And I think Bob thought that this was about him, but when I was looking at Facebook this afternoon, I saw that somebody got some awards at school today. So a very special young lady. The grandparents and parents need to be very excited and very proud of this young lady. All the awards she got at school, she deserves money. It is my honor to serve. I've served as the liaison with the chamber since I came on board. And during that time period, I got to know Bob, the board, and a lot of the things that happen around town that are really attributed to the work that they do. Where's Glenda? Glenda's not here. She's Glenda. But she's here, I thought. Yes. But Bob and Glenda, they have been super people. Come on, hurry up. You're running late. Come on. But
Can't work it.
get up here. So what I thought is that, Bob and Glenda have been such integral parts of the selling of Black Mountain to this nation, to this country, to this world. In fact, we have people who come and visit us from all over this world who come to the chamber. And they have done an excellent job at selling this town, the little town that rocks, And they have made so many great contributes to the town. But I just thought that it would be great to have people come up, business people, board members, family who have given up their time with Bob, 25, 30, 40 years, something like that. But, if it hadn't been for them and saying, go do it, he would have never done it. So we really appreciate them for sharing Bob with us. Proclamation honoring Bob McMurray, June 10th, 2019. Whereas it is fitting and proper to honor and pay tribute to Bob McBurry as he begins a new chapter in his life following his retirement from the Black Mountain Shenandoah Valley Chamber of Commerce. And whereas Bob will retire from the Black Mountain Chamber of Commerce on June 28, 2019 after 25 years of service to the Chamber members and to the people of the Shenandoah Valley as the Chamber's Executive Director. Whereas Bob is a native of the Shenandoah Valley and grew up connected to the community, his parents were founding members of the Shenandoah Valley Museum and the Shenandoah Valley Fine Art League. His knowledge of the history and geography of the region has been a valuable asset as he served in the community and visitors. His years with the Chamber have seen the Shenandoah Valley grow and prosper into the community it is today. And whereas Bob attended the Appalachian State University in Boone, North Carolina, where he majored in business administration and marketing, which proved valuable in the 25 years he served leading the Chamber of Commerce. And whereas Bob has been a dedicated member of the community, serving on numerous boards and committees over the years, his contributions have led to many improvements. As a long-standing member of Western North Carolina Chamber Executives, Buncombe County Tourism Development Authority, Blue Ridge Mountain Host, and the Western North Carolina Rail Committee, he has shared his knowledge and contributed to the growth of the entire region. And therefore, I, or he, Don Collins, mayor of the town of Black Mountain, and Board of Aldermen express sincere appreciation for his dedicated services to the citizens of Black Mountain and the Shenandoah Valley, which contributed to the growth of the entire region, and bid him well wishes and all the best in his retirement. Signed this 10th day of April, 2016, Mayor Don Collins.
All right. We'll now go into our citizen comments, and the first one on our list is Sheridan Hill. You have 3 minutes, and what's your light?
Good evening, commission members, board members, folks. I'm on the Urban Forestry Commission, and I just wanted to let you know that our meetings were attended by like 3 or 4 different times by members of the Black Mountain Presbyterian Church in earlier months this year, and then they invited us to a meeting, like a focus group that they had for developing an urban forestry management plan. And so I didn't know, I wanted to let you all know that a lot of the church, or some other churches, have something they call an earth care team. And so the Black Mountain Pres Earth Care Team is who has been coming to our meetings and asked us to come to their meeting to form an urban forestry management plan. And they're going to have other meetings and invite other churches to collaborate. So I just wanted to pass that on. Who knew that churches were involved like that? But apparently there's a movement around the earth. God gave us the earth, and we want to care for it and be good shepherds and that kind of thing. So just an update.
All right, thank you. Marilyn Sabansky.
Good evening, everyone. Making lemonade out of lemons is a well-known expression, I believe. In thinking about the various decisions you have made and how we, citizens and board, have interacted or not interacted with each other, I am led to say a few words and hopefully make some lemonade, even if it's just to encourage some reflection or fresh thinking. Have we made decisions that protect and preserve our natural resources, be they Lake Tomahawk and our parks and green spaces, or our waterways and air we breathe? Not just for ourselves, but for those who join us now and those who follow us in the near and distant future. I believe we have made some significant strides, but still need the clear thinking, creativity, and perhaps the most important, the will to do what it takes, to be sure that the blessings of some do not become the curses of others. I'm thinking particularly of the impacts of some of our growth as it relates to the ground on which homes are built and the homes themselves worked for so hard. I'm thinking of the green space that will disappear forever if concrete and asphalt roll in, replacing it. At a time when more and more people want to live in our lovely community and enjoy nature and the renewal and health benefits of recreation. Have we valued our human resources, be they resident, staff, business owner? Over and over again, when listening and reading what successful individuals have to say, the essence of what I hear is that people are our greatest resource. I'm talking about seeing the contributions that have been made and those that could be made. I'm talking about seeking input and listening earnestly to various viewpoints, eliciting the finest and best of what people have to offer. Yet members of town boards and commissions were bypassed on occasions where they could have shared their perspectives and expertise, experience, and/or skills, generating ideas and offering valuable guidance in the decision-making process at hand. And yet the contribution and committed time and involvement of new board and commission members is sought tonight. Have we honored our people, regardless of if they think like us, see the world the way we do? Even efforts were made to rob our people of their right to vote at the time they should have for their leaders, and the opportunities to step up to leadership roles themselves when they should have had that right and opportunity. I say, let's look closely at what we have done and are doing so we make better choices. Thank you.
Thank you, Marilyn. Miss Elaine?
I'm going to pass.
Okay. Mary Standard?
My name is Mary Standard. I live in Montreat, and I vote in Montreat. So why am I here? I am here because this is a matter in which the town councils of Black Mountain and the town council of Montreat are very closely linked, and the same issues are facing both towns. In November of 2018, the Black Mountain Town Council voted to go to an even year election cycle, and to achieve this goal, they chose to gift themselves with a 5th year in office rather than having an election for 1 or 3 years to bring it in compliance to the even year. In December of 2018, the Town Council of Montreat voted the same thing, to go to the even year cycle and once again to gift themselves with a 5th extra term in office. They did this primarily, one of their primary reasons, they were supporting the town of Black Mountain, and Black Mountain had done this, and that following Black Mountain's lead, they wanted to support the town. That's the reason that I'm here. We are being disenfranchised by this decision not to have elections for 1 or 3 years. Another very strange event occurred in February when a member of one of the town councils, I do not know which, reached out to Senator Chuck Edwards, who does not represent us, to advance these bills in the state legislature. Why Ager and why Van Dyne were bypassed instead of going by Edwards, and he filed these bills without them knowing about it. 3 months later, the bills were finally started moving in the Senate and the House. But as of today, this moment, this time, there are 2019 elections on the books for Black Mountain and Montreat. It changes daily, but as of this time and this moment, they are, I don't know what your budget says, I don't know what Montreat's budget says, but at this moment, the 2019 municipal elections for these two towns are on. Thank you.
All right, we'll have our communications boards and commissions and agencies. First up will be McGill and Associates, Dale Shepherds, Senior Consultant.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor, council members, and staff, and those in attendance. My name is Dale Shepherds. I'm with McGill Associates, and I've spent 30 years in local government, So I kind of know what happens on that side of the dais and out here and in the offices and so forth to get decisions made and to comply with things that are required by the town. One of which is to comply with House Bill 436 as it applies to your system development fees. Now, a little bit of history. House Bill 436 was the result of a couple of lawsuits that some developers had filed against a few towns here in North Carolina. And at the end of that wrangling, the Supreme Court made a determination that towns did not have the authority to set a development fee. And a development fee is basically an impact fee. It is a fee that attempts to recover the proportionate cost of the capacity of the water and or sewer system that is being taken by that new development, so that burden of cost isn't borne strictly by the ratepayers, but by those that are coming in and accessing that capacity. Okay? So in the definition, the use of system development fees, they have to capture every capacity related fee that is imposed. Okay, so if you have capital recovery fees, impact fees, there's a host of titles that are given to impact fees. House Bill 436 says you will do them this way, you will calculate them by this methodology, and they will apply as the legislation calls for. Okay? So also there's a deadline. For those fees to be valid, they would have to be complying with House Bill 436 by July 1 of 2018. So in order to come into compliance, you are required to do a study by a qualified engineering firm or financial firm. So in order to comply with the House Bill 436 requirement, there needs to be a study done prescriptively as 436 dictates, done by a qualified firm and following the industry standard methodology and practices. Okay? So what you have before you is that study. Okay? The methodology is that we make a determination based on the value of your existing assets that provide that capacity. Okay, we determine what that value is in terms of dollars per gallon per day of demand. Okay, we also have a methodology and procedure to calculate future capacity related assets and determine that value in that same common denominator, dollars per gallon per day of demand on your system. Then that cost then is your maximum available impact fee. Okay, so in other words, my job is to make a determination based on these methodologies and calculations as to what your maximum system development fee could be. Okay, so by law, your maximum amount would be $5,912, and that's based on an equivalent residential unit. Okay, the other part of the methodology says that what we're going to do is we're going to have this dollar per gallon per day, then we are going to apply that to the typical unit of service, which is a 3-bedroom house. Then we have a method to translate that cost into other uses that may come along. Okay, so that's the prescribed methodology. You figure out what it's worth, you apply it to the equivalent residential unit, then you have a conversion factor by which you can then apply that fee amount, whatever you choose that to be, to apply to other uses. Restaurants, barber shops, industrial facilities, those sorts of things. Okay? Excuse me. So, as you can see through the report, the explanation of the methodology is there. The approach is described. The actual calculation methods are there. There are tables that demonstrate the value of your assets, the exclusions that are in the calculations, those sorts of things that boil it down to those numbers that are applied to those calculations. Okay. One thing that I will point out is that on page 8, there was a typographical error that I must apologize for that has been removed. I can provide the page that shows the original language. It has no bearing on the calculation, on the results, or anything of the like. It was simply a typographical error that I overlooked in presenting this. Okay, so again, the methodology and the approach is that I'm going to determine what that value of your capacity is, existing and future. Then it's your decision to decide how much of that, if any, you are going to apply to those new developments as they hook onto your system. Okay, so at this point I would take any questions or provide some further explanation if you need that on any section or part of this.
So you only consider, I guess what I understand the reason behind it and so forth, the reason behind the study and why we need to do it. But it seems like we're not capturing, well, number one, the number you come up with is so large it doesn't, it gives us plenty of room, so that's not really an issue. But in itself, it hasn't really measured, or has it? I mean, some of the other factors that are impacted with development, such as stormwater issues and everything else. How does that play into it? Roads,
It doesn't.
Yeah.
It doesn't.
So you got a lot of impacts that really aren't even addressed.
Right.
Really just water is what it is.
Right. House Bill 436 is specific to water and
It's
sewer
just water.
utilities.
Yeah.
That way, every utility in the state does it the same way.
Yeah.
And then it's equitable, across the state in terms of how it's determined.
Water and sewer?
Yes, water and sewer, not storm sewer.
Yeah.
Water
sewer,
and sanitary sewer, yes.
Sewer. And tell me how, generally speaking, how the sewer's dealt with just because of our consolidated system and so forth.
Well, the sewer is excluded because you do not own
Because we is a
capacity.
consolidated system.
Yeah, you don't own that.
Yeah. So even though there's impact,
Right.
it's just not measured.
Now-
And MSD's a utility, so they have to get their rates approved anyway.
Right, that's true. But if you purchased capacity and you have exclusive rights to that capacity by a contract, then it would
It
apply.
would go into it. Yeah.
But you don't have that arrangement, so it would not apply.
Right, okay.
Okay. Any other questions?
No, sir. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Capital Projects Fund update, Dean.
So for the last 3 months or so, the town manager and myself and town staff have worked with the board in developing our annual budget, and later on in this meeting, we're going to try to get that adopted. Within that annual budget and in many prior budgets, we have certain line items where the town makes a contribution to capital projects funds. But we don't often talk about them all that much, which is tonight what we're going to do. Capital projects fund, by definition, are projects that are going to span, they're going to be more than 1 year, and they're going to result in a capital asset being written up. Many times, the funding for these projects, can be grant funding, but it could be that the town is contributing all the money. It doesn't have to be grant funded. I think you'll see that most of ours are. So right now we have 5 active capital projects. Oh, am I clicking this thing? All right. So our first one is the Watershed Restoration Capital Projects Fund. We started this in July of 2015 with a preliminary study which identified about 20 or so projects around town that we could do. The purpose of this capital project fund is to really kind of clean up the Swananoa River. Our first construction project was in February of 17. You can see that the town contributed $35,000. We received a $30,000 grant from the Pigeon River Fund, and then we have a grant through the North Carolina Department of Environmental Quality for almost $74,000. Right now, we have sort of a positive balance in this fund of $5,800. Currently, we don't have. This fund could be coming to an end as we have not succeeded in getting additional funding. Most of the projects we've done on this capital project fund have been on town property. This becomes a lot more difficult when we start to try to pull off some of these projects that are on private property. So I think Josh and I will know, and Jessica's very much involved in this as well. We'll probably know in 6 months whether we'll be able to get additional funding on these projects for the watershed restoration. The projects that we did finish was a project at the library, at the golf course parking lot, then actual portions of the golf course as Lake Tomahawk does eventually get into the Swananoa River. The next one we have is the Riverwalk Greenway Capital Projects Fund. And really part of the reason that I'm up here today is that a lot of these projects they don't move all that quickly, but we're starting to start to move on some of these and see some dollars come in and out. So this is the Greenway project that we started back in September of 16. So far there has just been engineering involved in this project. Eventually the budgeted amounts on this project will be closer to $5 million. 80% of that funding will come from the NCDOT grant. So that means the town has to come up with about $1 million. We succeeded in receiving $400,000 of our match from Buncombe County, which really means the town will be, if all goes according to plan, when this project gets done, the Greenway will be worth close to $5 million, and the town will have contributed about $600,000. We're starting to move a little bit on this project, and I'll probably be coming with another budget amendment. There were two pieces of this project which we're in the process of sort of combining, but very shortly this project will be around $5 million budgeted.
So these are the numbers, the number that's 2.1 million. These are the numbers that we haven't spent this quite yet.
No, those are the budgeted numbers as of May 31st. The actual numbers are to the right. So really we've spent...
So how did those are budgeted, meaning they're included in past budgets and the current year budget?
Yes. That's where this is where things stand as of May 31st. So if you looked at the general ledger, the budget on this project is $2,158,750, and we've spent a little over $223,000.
The first big piece, we really just had the second larger piece come in. The first piece that we had for engineering only was it $1.7 million? The total number?
The first piece was $150,000 total grant. We had to contribute $30,000 of it. The next piece brought it up to this number that you're looking at right there.
It was the big piece.
Yeah. And then there's another piece of about 2.8, which I'll be bringing as a budget amendment, as a project amendment to you guys maybe next month.
And that's the Riverwalk portion, and then the connecting portion back here.
Yeah.
That last piece, the last big piece.
Yeah. Yeah, so the next project is Fund 6500. This is called the Tomahawk Stream Stabilization Capital Project Fund. This really involves the stream as it runs through the golf course. This project, the total budget is at $92,150. We've spent exactly that amount. We have another $74,000 grant that we will be getting to probably in the next 6 months or so. We've already contributed our 50% match, or virtually our 50% match. We've contributed $35,000, so we'll need to contribute $2,000 more. This is really cleaning up the Tomahawk Branch as it flows through the golf course. It's good for the Swananoa River. It's also good for the golf course because as some of you golfers know, after heavy rains, another foot or two of that creek bank can end up, washed away.
I wonder if I could ask just a side question on that. That work should be scheduled to be done this fall.
No, well, yeah, we'd want to have it done in the fall when the golf play is as intensive as it is now.
Right. So
yeah, maybe later.
Or is it November?
Last time we did it was around November, December. Yeah. And I think we went into the next year when we did that one.
Yeah, we're still working on it in the spring a little bit.
We were like in March, I think, maybe in April.
Yeah. But would that be about the same time frame with this bit?
That's what the
plan is.
Is
that in front? That will be in front of the 10th tee and going up to right in there.
Is that the section that's the section we're doing next?
Is that, and that's where it stops this time around, is that section, which is a pretty good sized section, but it's got a lot of work to be done on it.
It's around 1,400 linear feet this time, I think.
Is that right?
Yeah. And that grant funding, we get reimbursed at 50% on that. So, the town's contributed, as of today, we've contributed $81,000, but we're really ahead of the game by $35,000. But we're basically paying for half of the improvements at the golf course there. The next project is the veterans.
And just mention also the help that this is going to be to Lake Tomahawk.
Yeah, right. This also directly impacts Lake Tomahawk, which we spend a lot of money on dredging. So if these improvements get done, we'll spend a lot less on dredging, which is a very important point. Our next project is the Veterans Park Improvement Capital Projects Fund. We purchased a piece of land adjacent to Veterans Park back in May of 2017 for $87,000. The town received a Part-If grant. We purchased that land because we thought we were going to get the grant. We actually didn't get it the first year, but we got it the second year. That grant is for a total of $211,000. The town needs to match that amount. That land we were able to purchase at a discount, so we will get credit for about $150,000 for that piece of land. The Kiwanis Club has pledged $40,000 to help us with our match, so it very likely will be the town will only need to contribute another $20,000 or so. By the time this project gets completed, and I think we'll start on this project soon, will be by the time this project gets completed, it'll probably be about a $420,000 project that the town contributed about $110,000 of it in actual cash. And the last one is the one where some very big numbers are flowing through. This is our Commerce Park infrastructure project. The budget at this is $1,655,000. This is work done on the infrastructure down at the Avatam site, including a new pump, which is going to allow us to supply that site with water, and will really be able to supply the town in many ways for the next 10 or 20 years. This project, really, the town is not contributing anything on this project. We're being reimbursed through a Golden Leaf and an EDA grant. And you can see as of today, we've spent close to $800,000. We've only been reimbursed, well, we've been reimbursed 254 as of 5/31. We actually received 180,000 a week or so ago. So I guess that puts us up to what, 430? And then I asked for another 300 last Friday. So in the end, the town will not be paying anything on, the town shouldn't be contributing anything, and that infrastructure will be in place that will help a lot of them in the short term, but will really help the town in the long term. And those are our 5 active projects at this time. So if anybody has any questions.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, consent agenda. Josh?
All right, your first item on consent agenda is your adoption of minutes. Let's see the minutes from May 9th, 2019 agenda session, May 13th, 2019 regular session, May 9th, 2019 special call, May 20th, 2019 budget workshop. Your second consent agenda item is a budget amendment. This budget amendment is for transferring of funds into our water capital reserve fund. This is for our automatic meters that we are working on purchasing. This is for $125,000. That total fund with this next budget, should it get passed here in a few minutes, we will be up to a total of $450,000 for those meters. The other portion of the budget amendment here is $100,000 for capital reserve. This is for the fire department, and in that fund we'll have a total of $395,000. $120,000 of that is for purchase of a fire truck, and the other $275,000 is renovations to the fire department building. That'll be your consent agenda.
What are those?
The renovations are for upgrading the bathrooms, kitchen area. That's stuff that just is dated over the years and needs to be, and it just needs to be updated. And we wanted to wait after our previous chief left till we got the new chief on board so he could have some input on what that looked like. So.
Any discussion? Do I have a motion to approve consent items A and B as presented?
So moved. So moved.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, citizen comments for unfinished and new business. We had no one sign up. Okay. Yes, sir. This will be for unfinished and new business. Unfinished or new business.
Is this the thing about getting an extra year? Is this the thing?
No, that would have been in your first
But are you coming up with another opportunity to comment on that?
No, sir, but
Oh, sorry.
that would have been in your first citizen comments.
Didn't mean to interrupt.
That's all right. All right, unfinished business. Montessori lease amendment, Josh.
I'm playing attorney tonight. So
Yes, sir.
I'll do my best to get through this. So this is a lease agreement that we talked about last month, and we did make some changes to it. Essentially, the change is to add the additional square footage that they are requesting to use, 860 square feet of the of the Carver Center. The terms and conditions still stay the same. And I believe this has got, I want to say 3 more years on this lease. It's a 5-year lease total, but I think you're already in. I think we've already had 2 years of it.
In discussion?
No, and I think the only thing we were really pointing at in the discussion, just to refresh my memory, is that is just to assure, it was already in the lease, but if the town needs the building at some point in time, we give a year's notice and we can use the property. So I think that's important for folks to know. Yep.
Just an observation, Mr. Mayor. I think it's very important, and I think it's really great that Culver Center is getting back to be used as the original purpose of what it was made for, being a school in our community. And the Montessori folks have been good folks. They've been good tenants, and we look forward to good things, continue good things with them.
All right, do I have a motion to approve the Montessori school lease amendment as presented?
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Passes 4-0. Part and afternoon lease, Josh.
So this is a new lease you're seeing. This is also for the same building, Carver Center. It's they have been in a specific portion of the building, commonly referred to as the annex. 2,577 feet is the portion they're using, and this is a program that is during the afternoon. I think she does provide some summer camp as well. The rent for this would be $1,000 per month, and beginning 9 days ago, I guess June 1st is what we've got it dated here. But this would be, I guess, more of a full lease than what we just talked about. This goes into all the details, all the legal language that the town attorney has requested to be in here, insurance and all that.
Now, how long is this? What's the term on this one?
This actually can be revisited in August of this year.
Oh, okay.
Well, this one, just as a reminder, the Montessori was an amendment. I mean,
That's
the
correct.
full lease has all the proper
That's
terms
correct.
in it. And so
Yes.
this is the full lease.
This one here is a full lease.
And my understanding, we're going to review it again in August.
It was the board's decision at our last meeting to review this again in August
Right.
of 2019.
Any discussion? Motion to approve the art and afternoon lease.
So moved.
All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? All right, Josh, resolution authorizing town to engage in electronic payments.
So this resolution will be, we're doing this first before we get into the next agenda item, which is our procurement policy, but this resolution is really authorizing the town to engage in electronic payments, which is essentially P-card purchases when we're buying things with a credit card. That's what this resolution is detailing out for us and talking about us putting in procedures in place to make sure we're looking at that information and we've got a firm grasp on it.
Yeah, just as a reminder to the public, and correct me if I'm saying this incorrectly, Josh, but this resolution, along with the procurement policy that follows, it flowed from a recommendation that came from our auditor last year, and there was no issues with what was going on. There were no improprieties or anything of that nature. It's just we did not really have a policy in place. We actually didn't have a policy, a written one out, one that was written and in place and that provided the right guidelines and really protection for employees as much as anything else. But it's also it's a good thing, for dispersing funds to have the proper procedures in place. So this is part of it, along with this procurement policy, which Josh will talk about a little bit later. But these are very much patterned after the county's policies that they revised recently, and our auditor recommended that we look at those policies and pattern ours. We didn't have to do it exactly like it, but it was a good pattern. They'd worked hard on it, and so that's where all this is sort of coming from, isn't it? That's really kind of what we're doing. And again, there wasn't anything inappropriate. It was just we needed to get some documentation in place. So.
Right.
Motion to approve the resolution authorizing Town of Black Mountain to engage in electronic payments, R1910.
So moved.
All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Passes 4-0. All right, Josh, the procurement policy.
Okay, so this policy is, I'm going to hit the high points. It's probably 35 or 40 pages. It's pretty detailed. So I think, like Alderman Harris just mentioned, I think one of the big things that it really is important with this is we didn't have a written policy in place. So this kind of formalizes everything that we're going to do going forward on our procurement guidelines, P-card usage, contracts, that sort of thing. Other big thing about it for example, since I've been here about 8 or 9 months now, I'm bringing you a lot of contracts, and we're reviewing those, and you're approving those. If we're budgeting funds for those, and it's already something that's a budgeted item, as long as the manager and the attorney are reviewing these and they look okay, then it doesn't make a lot of sense to keep bringing those to you. It's just kind of stifling stuff, to be honest. But so there's a lot of different thresholds in here where that will be used. It's going to be based on dollar amounts. If it's over a certain amount, of course, we're following the general statutes on bidding requirements, everything of that nature. But if it's under certain dollar amounts, that is set out in this policy, and you may not see every single contract as long as it's something that's already been budgeted and we've had a discussion on. The other things in here that go into great detail, we do talk about currently, as far as our travel goes, we've got, when we do our travel for town business, we've got like a one sheet that we use that tells us all the information we need about governmental rates, things of that nature. So this policy does go into some detail, more so on that, where we've got more of a formalized, written out policy now that we follow on, what the per diem rates are, what the mileage is, that sort of thing. Where right now we've just been using a more or less a sheet that has that. So now it's more formalized in a policy that's been adopted by the board. And those are really the high points of this.
Any discussion? Motion to approve the Town of Black Mountain procurement policy as presented. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? All right, Hemp Hill property resolution, Josh.
All right, so I know we've talked about this for a number of months. I think at the last meeting there was some indication from the board that they wanted to go ahead and I guess do away with a portion of that property as long as we could retain an easement for Greenway. That has been added to this language. If you'll notice, number 1 and number 2 specifically on the resolution does go into that detail about the Greenway easement as well as that property that we're not interested in off of on the Hemp Hill property.
I'm assuming everybody's looked at the resolution. Any discussion?
The only thing I'd point out, again, just for the public, is that what we're accomplishing is, in my thinking, very much what we do when we close the street. We're allowing and promoting the development of a piece of property that really couldn't be developed anyway. We're picking up an easement that we wouldn't have had to get into the property, and so it's in my thinking very much of a win-win on both sides, because we'll embellishing the tax base and also picking up access to the property. So it's favorable, I think, to the town to do this.
And it gets us one step closer to having a large chunk for a green space, a recreation for whatever we decide we're going to do with it. All right, do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. Mayor and Board of Aldermen compensation ordinance, Josh.
So I hate that we didn't have this information before the last meeting we had where we did vote to make a change to the original ordinance you'd adopted back in June of 2017. We did speak with the town attorney, of course, and Freda Bluestein with the School of Government on this matter. She did get back to me, as I mentioned, unfortunately late, but essentially what this does, the General Statutes 160A-3 does provide the town, if the charter is enacted before a law was enacted in 1972, which is 160A-64, then the law in 1972 does supersede the charter, which essentially allows you to make that change, where you would now be getting your compensation beginning July 1, which you were going to anyway based on us budgeting that. However, now it will not end in 2020. It will be it will continue to, unless you change something else, it will continue.
Any discussion?
And this will be at the already preset limits.
This will be at the limits that we currently have budgeted that will go into effect July 1 of this year.
Need a motion to approve the ordinance 019-14.
So moved. So
All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? All righty, new business. Josh, we've got an offer on some property.
So from what I understood from our agenda meeting, I did provide you with an offer we did receive for the property 2992 US Highway 70, which is our old public services building. From what I recall from our meeting last week, it seemed to be the board's wishes to do a negotiated offer advertisement and the potential for an upset bid. And I think from what I understood, you wanted to pursue getting an appraisal of that property. So at this point, I guess we'll try and get that appraisal done and then just bring that back to you.
Right. So we'll move that to continue into old business next month. I doubt we're going to get an appraisal that quick.
Maybe a stretch.
Yeah.
Josh, have we given any thought or any consideration of what that building might be able to be used for town purposes? Any pros, any cons?
We as far as we really have not as staff.
Parking's a little of an issue down there, isn't it, James?
It is, and now that the new pump station's going in, it even,
Right.
it even hindered even more.
Right.
I know, it was real tight. We was actually getting ready to ask Polly's next door if we can work out some parking arrangements.
One of the concerns I had is, we've had some people speak up about utilizing it for kids in town. And an email I got today, and I think we all got it from a citizen, was talking about how a family had some kids at their house in one of the streets, and a 19-month-old got out of the fenced-in area and was standing out in the street, and they didn't know it. One of my concerns would be that you would have kids who were down at that facility if we did use it as a youth facility. And we already had one tragic accident where a young lady was killed who got away from her mom coming from the Goodwill store. So my concerns with anyone who wants to visualize it as a youth facility is something we can do for kids. Is, that's a very high traffic area. It's not a secure area as far as I'm concerned. If it were turned into a youth facility, my kids and my grandkids would not go down there and play at it. And I think, it's something that if the original plan and the original thought was that, at one point in time we could sell that facility and help pay for the new facility downtown. So if anybody else got any kind of concerns, any thoughts, any options or whatever, I'm just throwing out my 30 cents worth,
It sounds reasonable.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree with you.
I do too. All right, Josh. Our next.
This one's you, I think, right?
Yes, sir, it
Fill
is.
vacancies.
It is. ABC Board have one vacancy for 3-year term ending June 30th, 2022. We have one applicant, Mr. Roger Hibbard. Do I have a nomination?
I nominate Roger Hibbard.
Roger Hibbard. Roger did a great job. Mayor, do we need to also appoint him to be chairman?
We do. It is our responsibility and duty to appoint the chair
Can we do that here?
right now.
All right. So nomination's been made. Nominate.
Also to be chair. Can you make an amendment to that? Nominate him
Is anyone else on the board down there
I think Roger would be a great chair. He'd be the person for
Well,
it.
let's go with it.
Yeah, he'd do it. He'd do a great job.
So I nominate Roger Hibbert to the board and to serve as
You know,
chair.
he's getting a double duty.
We'll tell him tomorrow.
Yeah.
All right, we have a motion. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Passes 4-0. All right, Greenways Commission. We have 2 vacancies and 2 unexpired that are ending in June 30th. We basically have 3 applicants, one of which is not eligible, and then we have 2 others, and we have more folks that are applying. Angela, is that my understanding?
I have 2 more applications that came in.
Okay, so, which is too late for today, but we can pick that up then next month's meeting. So I need nominations then for Greenways Commission.
Well, did we have a cutoff date for the applications?
Yes.
Yeah.
It was Friday,
May 30th.
and it came in Friday. So then they're past the deadline then.
Yeah. So, but we can then, because we're gonna have to reapply now, we can reconsider them in the July meeting.
Are you ready for nominations? I would like to nominate Ann Lutz.
We have a nomination on the floor. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Approves 4-0. All right, we need one more nomination.
Nominate Elizabeth Williams.
Have a nomination. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? 4-0. Historic Preservation. We have 2 vacancies, 1 unexpired term. Need a nomination?
I nominate Susan Levy.
Have a nomination on the floor. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, I have another vacancy. Need a nomination.
I'll nominate Amanda Volrath.
Nomination on the floor. Do we have got a need to vote? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, 4-0. Planning Board. We have 3 vacancies and on a 3-year term. We have 2 folks that have applied. Need nomination.
I nominate Chris Collins.
Have a nomination. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Need another nomination?
I'll nominate LaRonda Teeple.
Have a nomination on the floor. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Passes 4-0. Okay. We have Recreation Commission. We have 3 vacancies and 1 unexpired term. So we're going to have to do this a little bit differently. We're going to have to decide who's going to first fill the unexpired term. Need a nomination.
I nominate Marcus Duarte for that unexpired term ending in 2021.
I have a nomination. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? 4-0, Marcus. Need another nomination.
I'd like to nominate Lee Reading or Redding. I assume it's Reading.
All right, we have a nomination. Mr. Redding, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? 4-0. Need two more.
Nominate Michael Nerder. Nerder.
Okay. Have a motion to approve Michael Nerder. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Need another nomination.
Nominate Elizabeth Reed.
She's already on
Oh,
that.
she's already.
Yeah, she's on that, wasn't that the same? Didn't we put her on one of the others? Yeah, so she can't do both. How about the other?
Stephen Downs.
Yeah.
Nominate Stephen Downs.
Okay. Have a motion on the floor. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Urban forestry. Now, before we start into that, let me make something, give you some information. Miss Emily Sampson there's the possibility that she is going to work for the town on a part-time basis. That being said, then she will be ineligible, and so I'm going to give you that up front, guys. All right, urban forestry, do we have a nomination?
Now, this is for expired term or for term ending 2022?
It's already.
Your pleasure.
You know, since Miss Sampson might go to work for the town, I'm not going to make a nomination, but I'm going to offer the thought, and we can make a motion that we appoint her to the unexpired term ending 2020, the shortest one, and then if she goes to work for the town, then it'll just be vacant, and we can fill it if we have someone that can apply.
Do we have any other folks that have sent their applications in?
That sound okay? That sounds okay. That sounds agreeable. I'll make that motion that we appoint Ms. Sampson to the unexpired term ending 2020. And if she has to resign because she goes to work for the town,
that would happen immediately, correct?
I'm not sure when she may or may not be hired.
Okay.
So
this summer.
All right, that makes sense then.
Yeah. Because we don't have a fourth one anyway, so.
All right, the one ending in June 30th, 2020, we have a nomination on the floor of Emily Sampson. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, another nomination.
I nominate Reed Bockhurst for the term ending in 2022. That would be a reappointment, basically.
All right, we've got a nomination. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? One more.
That will leave Scott Alba for the one ending in 2021. Right?
Yes, sir. You're nominating?
Yes.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, the Zoning Board of Adjustments, we have 3 vacancies and a third alternate term. We have 2 folks that are currently serving and seeking a second term. That'd be John DeWitt and Robert. Ted Manson is eligible for appointment to his first term because he's been an alternate. So do I have a nomination?
I'd like to nominate Robert Osmundson.
Have a nomination. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Need another.
I would like to nominate John DeWitt.
Have a nomination. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? And one more.
Well, I nominate Ted Matson.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Now, as per our policy, current alternates shall move up as follows. The first alternate now will be Janet McKimson. Second alternate will be Charlotte McGraney. There'll be a third alternate vacancy left open and pending new applications. All right, public hearing to close an unopened platted street known as Campbell R19-12. Jessica.
Good evening. As you said, this is to close an unopened right-of-way on Campbell Street. Important to note that the other end of this block was closed in 1986, so it's already not all the way through. There's no utilities or anything of that nature to be concerned about, and it's about 120 feet long. And this initial application was brought by the appropriate parties who have joined the right-of-way.
All right, motion to open the public hearing.
So moved.
In discussion.
What is that? Is it woods there? I mean, what does that appear like?
I'm not exactly sure what the vegetation state is like. It's between houses.
Between houses.
Yes.
It's not. It's not. No, you wouldn't know it was a right of way.
No.
Road.
No.
And not used as not path or anything else. Yeah.
Motion to close the public hearing.
So moved.
Motion to approve resolution R19-12.
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Jessica? Public hearing for the remainder of unopened platted street known as Campbell Street.
This closes the middle section of Campbell Street on that block. There's the one end of 1986 and the portion you just heard. This is about 297 feet in between. This is the accompanying application that was made by the planning board to complement the original applicant.
So this is at the planning board's request.
To close the balance of that right away, so there's not this section left in the middle.
Right. And also for the I'm sorry, where are we in the process here?
Getting ready to open the public hearing. All right, motion to open the public hearing to discuss resolution R19-13.
So moved.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
All right. This questions or anything from?
The only thing I was going to say is just to remind the public that it's a fairly extensive process that's gone through the planning board, steps followed, and we generally follow the recommendation of the planning board on these because it's a process and joining property owners. If they're adjacent, they sign off, right? So.
Yes, there's a thorough staff review as detailed in our own policies and our ordinance. As a property owner, you're only able to request closure of the right-of-way that you touch, but planning board by statute has the authority to close right-of-ways in general, and so they don't want to leave these little dog tails that sort of left out there.
Right. So for members of the public that wouldn't happen to have looked at the memo, attached to the memo from Jennifer is her memo, the petition, a map, a survey map, notice to the property owners, letters from the fire department, the resolution, and another map of the 1986 closure and petition closure. So a lot of documentation and steps.
And noticing
process.
Yes, and the planning board originally heard the first application for the previous public hearing in January, but to try to sync up the public noticing in the paper they agreed that it was okay to hold it for 1 month so we could bring them all to you at one time.
Motion to close public hearing.
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion to approve Resolution R 19-13.
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, public hearing for building permit ordinance text amendments. Motion to open the public hearing.
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
This is a text amendment that brings all the requirements for the building permit into the town ordinance. So we are empowered to make certain requirements before issuing a building permit. One of the more notable changes is the requirement that proof be provided from MSD that sewer, that they are kosher with MSD as far as their ability to tie into the system. We also added some language that our permits will be in compliance with anything that is required from the state. So if they were to make an amendment of what they require, we would come into compliance at that time when that became effective.
Any questions from Jessica? Motion to close the public hearing.
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion to adopt O19-11.
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
Who's 4-0? All right, public hearing for FY 1920 budget. Motion to open the public hearing. All in favor?
Aye.
Josh?
Go through this page by page. That's okay.
All right.
No, we've been talking about this for a while, a couple months. We've been working on it for, I guess since February. So we've been a lot of hard work from staff, and I appreciate their work on it, as well as the direction from the mayor and the board. I really appreciate it. And I think it's a good budget we've got proposed here. I'll just hit a couple highlights, if that's okay. The total budget is $11,592,230. It's an increase from the previous fiscal year of 3.45%. We do have a 2.5% cost of living adjustment for all full-time employees in this budget. We'll be continuing all the same services that we provide our citizens currently. Just for you to keep in the back of your mind, we'll be starting to maintain 300 new water customers in the city of Asheville at the end of this upcoming budget year. So that'll be something they'll come online, and then the following budget we'll do another 300. We're going to continue to look for grants as we always do. As Dean mentioned a few minutes ago, we've got some grant funding from NCDOT. We'll continue to make sure that that's coming in. Some Division of Water Resources money for stream restoration, things of that nature. We're going to try to get some money from Duke Energy to help with some stream restoration work as well. So if there's money out there, we're trying to seek it out to help offset the cost of the taxpayers on those types of projects. I will say the appropriated fund balance, I hope it doesn't change, but I'm sure it will, is $105,517. This is something that we always do. It is low, and I'd love to see it stay that low, but as we know, things do come up during the year, and you never know what kind of surprise is going to happen. But that's typically lower than it has been. We're doing a handful of different things. We're putting some money back for currently right now. We've talked about tennis court money. We've put that money back, $60,000 in some reserve for that. We're continuing to fund, as I mentioned earlier, the fire department, the fire truck. Continue to fund our automatic water meters, so we can continue to get that budgeted. We're continuing to fund our Greenway portion. I think is $80,000 a year. We've been putting back for that match for the Riverwalk Phase 2. We're also continuing that. We're doing a little bit more in paving this year than we have in the past, up from $100,000 to $150,000. Hopefully, we can continue to get that dollar figure up. I know it's important to spend some money on paving, and we need to keep doing that. We're putting money in the budget for sidewalks, as we've been doing for a number of years. We're focusing now more on the sidewalk on Highway 9 since we finished Montreat Road a couple years back. We budgeted some money for some improvements at Gray Eagle, some improvements at the Lake Tomahawk Center for Active Aging. We are budgeting a full-time position for the police department this year. I don't think that's been done in a number of years, so they're going to get an extra position this year. I'm sure a lot of departments could use positions, but that's what we're going to do this year for the police department. That's going to help them out quite a bit. We budgeted money for capital for public services, capital for the police department, for the planning department, and I think that's about all the high points I'd like to hit, unless you've got questions. Sure. So turnout gear, as we got into budget discussions, we talked about only funding a portion of that turnout gear. We ended up being able to do, I think, all of that, if I'm not mistaken. For the fire department, we only were going to do half, and we made some changes, and we're able to find a little extra money to fund that turnout gear for the fire department folks. I'll say our debt, this proposed budget is being reduced by $510,252.
And Josh, you might want to mention that we did all of this with no tax increase.
Yeah, it's very important. Thank you, Alderman Showers. We did all this with no tax increase, so the tax increase will remain the same as it has been at 33 cents.
And did you mention the compensation, the cost of living increase? You did mention that.
And I'd just like to mention that that makes us second on paper as far as the lowest municipality in the county. The only one that's lower than we are is Biltmore Forest. Biltmore Forest is only a quarter cents lower, but they don't have a fire department, whereas we've got and maintain a fire department. They lease their fire services or pay them a stipend or whatever you want to call it, contract basis. So for the services that the town of Black Mountain gets, and they don't have a recreation department either, because we're spending $500,000 in recreation in this town in this budget, and that is more than any town our size in western North Carolina, per capita, per person. So for the folks who think that we aren't doing enough across the board, I challenge them to compare us and compare apples to apples, because we're doing, the town of Black Mountain is doing an extremely good job. Police, fire, and public works are have-tos as far as the town, and recreation as we can. And we've been doing not just as we can, we've been doing an extremely good job in that regard. Okay. Motion to close the public hearing, or any discussion or any questions from Josh?
No, I think we covered it all, in particular in our workshops and so forth, so I don't have anything to add.
How about public comments? Have you asked for public?
We asked for public comments before we started with our old and new business, and no one signed up for it.
No, it's a public hearing.
Okay.
I speak, I didn't have a chance to sign up. Is
Okay.
that possible?
Go ahead. Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. My name is Roberta Madden. I live at 118 Church Street in Black Mountain. We have lived there for 10 years. And I do have one concern about this budget, and that is whether funding is provided for the election in 2019 for the Board of Aldermen. I have an understanding that maybe it's not included, and that may be because there's legislation still pending in the legislature to do away with the 2019 election here and just skip that election and say that the aldermen are automatically getting to serve an extra year, which I have some really serious concerns about that. It would save money, and that's important to do because the budget is tight, but the right to vote is really cherished. We expect to be able to vote for our representatives in the Board of Aldermen, and in some countries they don't have that right. Authoritarian countries, communist countries, they don't have that right, but we are better than that. So I ask you to please consider making sure that that money is in the budget for an election in 2019. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? We've already motion to close the public hearing now.
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion to adopt the FY 1920 budget ordinance O-19-10 as presented.
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right.
Mr. Mayor, if I
Yes, sir.
could address that concern for just a moment. If it were decided that we would have an election this year, I think that we, as a board, could do a budget amendment.
We've done things like that before, and we've done plenty of budget amendments before,
Right.
so that'd be, it's
Yeah.
not like it's a death nail
Right.
in the coffin.
Right.
It's
If
something
the-
we can take care of.
If the need be came about, we could do a budget amendment to cover the cost. And I think right now, what we've talked about and looked at before was probably less than $24,000 to make that happen, right?
Sounds about right.
So, if the need be, if the General Assembly decides that we should stay where we are, stay the course we are, then, we will do whatever we have to do to make it happen. They're the ones who are taking the control right now. They're the ones who are making the decision, and we just sit back and wait and see what happens.
All right, communication from Mr. Sneed, he's not here. Do you have anything on his behalf, Josh?
I do not.
All right, any communication from yourself?
I do have a couple of things here. Just a reminder for everyone in the audience and everyone that will be watching, or that we will be closed on Thursday, July 4th for our 4th of July holiday. And our regular and agenda meeting will be on July the 8th, I think at 5 and then at 6. So they'll be back to back on the same day. And then a reminder for tomorrow, we have I think it's our second public input meeting for our Blue Ridge Road Small Area Plan from 3 o'clock to 7 o'clock here at Town Hall.
In Town Hall.
And then the last thing I would like to mention would be that I have promoted our town clerk, Angela Reese, to a new title, assistant to the town manager, and I just wanted to let you know so you could congratulate her.
Congratulations.
Does she get an increase in pay?
Yes,
2
she does.
cents.
Yeah.
2.5 cents.
All right. Communication from the Mayor and Board of Aldermen. Anyone have anything?
I would like to pass along a compliment to Fred. I was at the Community Foundation of Western North Carolina offices last Tuesday, I think it was, and Cheryl Lakeman, who is she's not the CEO or the executive director, but I think she's director of development, I believe. But in any event, she paid a nice compliment to Fred, which I'd pass along to everybody. Fred reached out to her, did an article on the endowment, the Black Mountain Endowment at the Community Foundation, which has reached, what, 1 million what, Fred? I can't remember the number, but it's a good number for the town of Black Mountain, and it's a good story. Cheryl was just making the comment that Fred reached out to her, did the article, it was well done, and the benefit and the blessing that we have of having a local paper. So I passed that along from her, but I second it. It is something that we would miss if we didn't have it.
Mr. Mayor, just a reminder or to invite people on behalf of the Chamber of Commerce, we're going to have a get-together for Bob on June the 26th, starting at 5, I believe. 5 o'clock is going to be at the New Hampton Inn, and hopefully everybody can make it.
What time did you say?
5 o'clock, June 26th.
No
Wednesday.
presents?
No presents.
For me?
Just cash.
Just cash.
Gonna have fireworks for that? Yeah.
All right, anyone else? I have nothing. Motion to adjourn. All in favor? Aye. Motion Carried.